The Sabres get smoked in Montreal, and the Ducks pull even with the Golden Knights. Welcome to NHL Wraparound Stanley Cupdate. It is Monday, May 11th, 2026. Vic and Neil with you. We start a new week. So, question for you right off the bat. Who are you more concerned about after their losses last night? Buffalo Sabres or the Vegas Golden Knights?
Oh, my goodness. It's so easy to say the Buffalo Sabres because the Sabres were not sharp at all in that game.
You know, Knights have swords also, so play along here. Yeah.
Do you know what they say, though? Once a king, always a king, but once a knight's enough.
Anyway, the questions are going to get harder as we go through this show today. And we are going to start with the Canadian Sabres game in Montreal, now taking a 2-1 series lead with a 6-2 win on Sunday. We spoke after Game 2 whether or not Lindy Ruff might consider putting PekkaLuukkonen in goal. Not that Alex Lyon had played bad, but maybe for a little bit of a change, Lyon stays in net. And right off the bat, things look pretty good for Buffalo because Tage Thompson, who've been struggling throughout these playoffs on a weak clearing attempt by the Canadiens, he gets a carom off the end boards. We've mentioned that a few times during these playoffs. Off a Rasmus Dahlin shot. And quickly, it's 1-0.
And I wonder whether Dahlin meant to do that. Honestly, he's a good enough player that he might have meant to do that. He had the puck at the point and took the shot just off to Dobish's right, and Thompson was unattended at the left side of the net where the puck came right to him, and he gets his first goal of the series.
I thought something that was really interesting here was we had talked about all of the pomp and the circumstance and the lead up to the game and the jacked up crowd and Kirk Muller coming in with the torch and how the Canadians would play right off the bat. Now they're playing from behind. But I thought for the rest of that first period, it was like, hey, we're going to push this goal aside. We're just going to play our game. And they were fast. They were harder on the puck. And I thought it was just going to be a matter of time before they broke through because Lyon had to make several good saves on Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, and he made other stops on Phillip Danault and Joe Veleno. But finally, strong board work behind the net by Alex Newhook and gets the puck to Jake Evans. And then it's Newhook putting in the rebound. And you talk about guys stepping up that you wouldn't necessarily think are going to be your heroes. Alex Newhook, front and center.
The Stanley Cup winner from 2022 with the Colorado Avalanche. It was just a matter of time. Finally, at 15:31 of the first period, it was 1-1. Canadians outshot them 14-8. Thought Montreal, other than the goal by Thompson, it was Montreal's period.
I thought those shots were truly indicative of how this game was going. And early in the second period, it continued. Cole Caulfield had a tip-in from inside the blue paint and somehow missed the net. And then at the other end, Jakub Dobeš had to come up with a stop on Peyton Krebs. But finally, at 6:05, Caulfield on a great no-look pass from Lane Hudson on the power play. The entire 1 minute and 22 seconds of that extra man advantage for the Canadians spent in the Buffalo zone. And I'm telling you, when they throw the puck around with those five guys out there, that is a sight.
It is, but let's talk first about Hudson and what a tremendous play he made. First of all, he deked out Greenway, who went down to block a shot that Hudson never took. Greenway didn't have a stick on that penalty kill, and then he moved in, and you're right, a no-look pass. It sort of was between the legs, went in between the legs of Caulfield, but he was able to crouch his stick down and get his stick on it and put it in the back of the net. Just a tremendous effort by Hudson on the power play.
A little over a minute later, Phillip Danault tried to shove the puck under Lyon's leg after an initial shot by Josh Anderson. The goal was disallowed. But about 3.5 minutes after that, it's Veleno into the offensive right wing corner. He's the first one to the puck, and he hit Zach Bolduc in front at 10:43 to make it 3-1. And one of the things that was pointed out during the course of this game that was completely accurate was the amount of open space in front of that Buffalo net, because all night it appeared that the Canadiens could have set up for a picnic lunch in the slot.
That doesn't fare well on the defenseman. I'm sure Lindy Ruff will have his say with them today. But you're right, and it's now a commanding lead of 3-1.
But as they say, wait, there's more, because Beck Malenstein ran into Jakub Dovish about 11 and a half minutes into the period, ensuing Canadiens power play, and it's Juraj Slafkovsky tipping in Hudson's shot to make it 4-1. They almost made it 5-1, but then on a Buffalo power play, Dahlin scores through a screen to make it 4-2. Is the Sabres' first power play goal on the road in 30 tries dating back to the end of March. But overall, the attempts, and I know we go back and forth on this between shots on goal and attempts, but attempts to me is always more of a barometer of who's carrying and who's making the offensive push. Canadiens 50-32 through 2 periods.
Yeah, but that goal Dahlin scored gave Buffalo and their fans hope, because it was late in the period and it looked like, you know what, maybe they'll get the momentum they need now to go into the third period and mount a comeback. And the attempts by Montreal, I mean, Montreal was outplaying Buffalo the whole game, and, you know, either going through shots or attempts, you're going to come up with the same thing. Montreal had the edge in play.
The one thing that I was looking for in this third period was how Montreal was going to try to protect this lead. And we've heard this term several times, safe as death in the playoffs. And I wanted to see if Montreal was going to go after that fifth goal or be more of a mindset to keep Buffalo from getting their third goal. And early in the third, Zach Benson and Bowen Byram had near misses, and Tage Thompson had a shot from close in. Buffalo was really better in the early minutes of the third period, but then a Dobish save on Alex Tuch, and I'm not quite sure why Dahlin was pinched up so far on the left side, because the rebound came out. It's Texier and Deneau on a 2-on-1, and at the end of the play, it's Kirby Dach banging in a rebound off a scramble, a little less than 9 minutes in, and it's 5-2.
Well, actually, Dach grabbed the puck out from under Lyon and then threw it into the net. Certainly, Lyon lost where the puck was. He was sprawled out. He lost where the puck was. It was, as you said, it was after a quick 2-on-1. But then Dach came in as a late man, saw that the puck was lying there, grabbed it out from under Lyon and put it into the empty net. And now, you know, you see the fat lady warming up in the background.
Well, that came in the form, I guess, of Alex Newhook, who scored his second goal of the game. It was actually an awarded goal after he was pulled off the puck while approaching the empty net. That came with 4:46 left. And, of course, the end of the game, you had the usual crap going on with scrums and misconducts handed out. But in the end, it's a 6-2 win for the Canadiens. And if I'm Buffalo, I'm really concerned about what's taken place over games 2 and 3, because you know Montreal's coming out with the same energy, the same juice, the same speed, and at least from what I have seen so far, starting with the third period in game 1, the Sabres are having a hard time keeping up.
Well, it's been 7 straight periods of Montreal coming hard at Buffalo and Buffalo not being able to turn the tide. Even when they took the 1-0 lead, they weren't able to get that tide going towards Montreal. So we'll see what they can do, but they're going to have to find a way to grab the momentum away from Montreal.
Big snipers, Cole Caulfield and Tage Thompson both had a goal and an assist in this game, but I think we continue to see the depth players having more of a presence for both teams in this series, because, you know, we've talked about Zach Benson and Josh Stone and the job that they have done, and certainly Alex Newhook and the third line for the Canadiens as well. So this is a series where we're still waiting for those top lines to really shine.
Oh, absolutely. We'll see which one is going to come out. But right now, Montreal looks like they got things under control.
They will try to put a stranglehold on this series Tuesday, 7 o'clock on ESPN. The late game, the Anaheim Ducks pull even at 2 games apiece with a 4-3 win over the Golden Knights. Mark Stone out with an undisclosed injury. Brandon Saad in for the Golden Knights. And some changes for the Ducks with Mason McTavish back in, Ian Moore back in, and Olin Zellweger making his playoff debut. And I thought right off the bat, I liked the jump that I saw from the Ducks. Far cry from game number 3, where they were down 3-0 after the first period and had to really try to dig themselves out of a hole the entire night.
The Ducks turned their game around, and isn't it amazing the difference in this series and the other series? The Buffalo-Montreal series is such a nasty, rivalry type of punch everybody after the whistle, scrum everything going on. Not that way with Anaheim and Vegas. Yes, they did have some scrums in this game, but not nearly with the intensity of the Sabres and the Canadiens.
I agree. I totally agree. But you and I have seen hundreds of series during the course of our lives. Everyone's got a different personality to it. And now the Ducks, coming off that good start, a little less than 9 minutes in, Cutter Gauthier is stopped, but it's Alex Killorn getting the puck out to Beckett Seneca on the power play. It's the first power play goal for the Ducks in this series after starting out 0-11. Less than 2 minutes after that, the Golden Knights had a power play of their own, and it's Pavel Dorofeev converting on a rebound off a Jack Eichel shot to make it 1-1. But then later in the period, Noah Hannafin's pass up the boards intended for Rasmus Andersson jumps over his stick, and it's Jeffrey Viel to Mikael Granlund, kind of a funny carom, and fools Carter Hart to make it 2-1 going into the intermission.
Yeah, and Jeffrey Viel has been a real bonus, hasn't he, for Pat Verbeek and Joel Kenville? He's been just awesome for them in his role.
How many sevens has Verbeek rolled in terms of trades and signings and coaching hirings,
draft choices,
all coming up for him. And Viel has become a very important part of that fourth line for the Anaheim Ducks. But the Golden Knights, not to be deterred, about 4 minutes into the second period, William Karlsson, who made his debut in this series after missing almost 6 months with an injury, some great work getting in deep, and he gets passed from behind the net out front to Brett Howden. Howden's got 7 goals in these playoffs.
Leading goal scorer in the playoffs, Brett Howden, who'd have thunk it? But you got to admire Karlsson and the way he plays. After missing 6 months, he comes into the playoffs and can pick it up like he never missed a beat.
I thought that at this point, Vegas was kind of getting this game into a pace and into a style that they were really comfortable with. Dostal had to make a few good stops. Unfortunately, sometimes you get stupid. And a bad penalty taken by Cole Smith late in the period. It's good work by Gauthier. Gets the puck to Alex Killorn, who comes out from the corner with 2:02 left in the second. And instead of Vegas perhaps going into the intermission tied at 2, now they're behind.
Yeah, that was a bad penalty. It was a 2-hand slash by Cole Smith, and it was so obvious. And Killorn, as I said earlier, that always goes hard to the net, coming out of the corner, got this one. And that was a big advantage going into the locker room for the Ducks.
But stupid penalties were not just reserved for the Golden Knights, because Beckett Seneca takes a bad penalty at the end of the second period for a cross-check against Nick Dowd, but that is killed. And similar to what I wanted to see with Montreal, I was also interested to see how the Ducks were going to defend this 1-goal lead in the third period. They played a 1-2-2. They played real smart. It looked to me a lot like the first game and the second game, for that matter, in Vegas, that they are now more comfortable defending. And this was evident in the third period, I thought.
It was, and they're also adhering to, I think, what Coach Kenville wants them to do to protect leads, and they're doing it. And you could see in this game they protected this lead very nicely in the third period.
Ian Moore scored through a screen at 3:43. It was Cutter Gauthier's third assist after going pointless in the first 3 games of this series. Final goal of the game, scored by Tomas Hertl. It's his first goal in 30 games, and that came with 64 seconds left. The Golden Knights actually had a shot in the final minute. Bad turnover by Jackson Lacombe. However, Pavel Dorofeev unable to convert, and the game ends up 4-3. One thing I want to go back to is this Hertl goal here, because he scored only 5 goals in 28 playoff games since being acquired by the Golden Knights in 2024. When he came over, he was injured, but this is a guy that I think Vegas has counted on for offense since they've gotten him. And he really hasn't delivered nearly to the extent that he did when he was a member of the San Jose Sharks.
No, he hasn't had the touch that he had when he was with San Jose. We think of him as a great offensive threat for the Sharks all the time. But you're right. First goal in 30 games. I mean, think about that. The guy that John Tortorella calls Tommy. Tommy Hertl. Yeah, first goal. So that would be surprising to many, including me.
This series will go back to Vegas Tuesday, 9:30 on ESPN. We'll see if Mark Stone comes back. Even when injured, such an important presence for this team. And we know he plays hurt probably 95 to 100% of the games he plays. There's always something going on with him. But his presence is so key. And I think if he can come back on Tuesday night, this is going to be a big bump for them.
Oh, it definitely will be a big bump. It always is when he comes back in the lineup. But I got to tell you that I think that the Knights will play differently and better in Game 5 than they played in Game 4. I think they were happy to get Game 3 under their belt. And how often do we see that? There's a split. Now Vegas goes back to Las Vegas. It's a 2 out of 3 now. And I'm sure they have all the confidence in the world that they're going to win this series. We do know, though, the Ducks are serious. The Ducks are for real. Don't ignore them because they're a good team.
I enjoy the fact that we have been watching the Canadiens and the Ducks grow through these playoffs as we speak, because clearly, and we know that Montreal was in the playoffs a year ago, but we have certainly seen them take a step up this year. But neither of these two teams look the least bit intimidated. They are completely comfortable in their environment. And as you said, you got to take both of them seriously.
Well, and the Ducks are a much different team than they were a year ago. They've got a veteran presence on this team along with some incredible youth talent. They are for real. They got a good goaltender in Dostal. I like their defense core. They can score. They may not be the Vegas Golden Knights yet, but, you know, they are going to get better and better as far as I see, especially with these young guys like Seneca and others, Lacombe, and you can go on and on. They're going to be a team that you got to reckon with in the future.
I think it's a team that you got to reckon with now.
Well, the future may be Tuesday night at 9:30.
Well played. So before we go to the Monday schedule of only one game, I will pat you on the back for picking both Montreal and Anaheim, 2 home teams on Sunday. And I'll pat myself on the back for agreeing with you.
Of course you will. We're used to that. All of us that listen to and watch NHL Wraparound, are one thing that we're used to is Vic patting himself on the back.
Well, I agreed with you, and both picks came in. So, you know, I think we're going to be different on the Monday game, where Colorado visits Minnesota. Game 4, the Avalanche lead this series 2-1. This will be at 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Both Joel Eriksson Ek and Jonas Brodin will remain out of the Minnesota lineup, but very strong performance by Minnesota on Saturday to get within a game. Made the Avalanche look mortal. Where are you going with this one, Paco?
You'll be really surprised when you hear this.
No, I won't be.
I'm going with the Avalanche.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? You're so in bed with Colorado that if there was no Makar, no McKinnon, no Natchez, no Nelson, and they were playing against the Soviet Red Army from the 80s, you would still pick the Avalanche.
Well, I like the Avalanche and what they've put together here. So I just think that that's where I would put my money if I was putting money on anything, which I don't. Where are you going, though?
Well, where do you think I'm going?
With Minnesota. You're in bed with Minnesota, Billy Guerin and, John Hines and Quinn Hughes and on and on. That's where you're going because you're just cheering for Minnesota.
We cheer for all 32 teams, and those 32 teams are also open to criticism and constructive feedback from us. I said before the series started, I like the way they match up. Minnesota has grunted their way through these 3 games, a little bit undermanned, and I think they're going to pull even and make this series a best 2 out of 3 as well.
Well, good, because tomorrow one of us has to be wrong. I think I know who it's going to be. But anyway, one of us has to be wrong. And by the way, I don't cheer for all 32 teams. There are some that I would never cheer for on my deathbed. I'm not going to say who they are, but I certainly don't cheer for Colorado. I have no dog in the fight. I'm not a pom-pom waver like you are for the Wild.
Oh, my God. Get over yourself here. You know where to find us. First name for either of us at NHLWraparound.com. We're on all podcast platforms. So if you are tuning in on Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or Spotify, leave us a review. If you're tuning in via YouTube, please subscribe. You can also find us on X, Instagram, TikTok, at radiate.tv, and buzzer.com. That's BZZR.com. Neil, I go on that website, and the amount of stuff on there, and it is so well organized that it is a treasure trove, not only for hockey fans, but sports fans in general.
Yeah, they have all the sports on there. Check it out, bzzr.com. Check out what's on there. It's great stuff.
Nothing there about Neil waving his pom-pom for the Avalanche.
No, I don't have
Our website is NHLWraparound.com. Spring cleaning later on Monday. The Edmonton Oilers with Boston, Utah, and Tampa coming during the course of the rest of this week. And then those that are eliminated in round number 2, we will have their spring cleanings next week. But, Neil, I got to tell you something. I am really looking forward to this Edmonton spring cleaning because when you start to really do the deep cleansing here and looking at what needs to happen, it's daunting.
I mean, once you go into their garage, there are so many things that need to be cleaned out and thrown away and other things replaced. I mean, that's what spring cleaning's all about. And in Edmonton, Alberta, boy, they got a big job.
So tune in for that. And Neil and I will be back on Tuesday with another edition of Stanley Cupdate. Take care. Enjoy the game tonight.